Hey everybody, I am a little bit later than I wanted to be for the real talk, but life has been lifing and I had a lot of plans today, but instead I did something kind of silly and I really burnt my finger pretty bad. So I've just been really exhausted and I didn't life today like I thought I would, but I really wanted to get on here and do the real talk because it's important to me. So today I want to talk about really strategic warfare and prayer and intentions and really like not to tell you guys like this is what you should do, but this is how I do it. And I'm just going to kind of talk about the things that I do and the things God has shown me. But obviously that's because that's how my brain works. Like that doesn't mean it's right for everybody. I'm not telling everyone this is what they have to do. I'm just saying, hey, I want to start a conversation and say, hey, this is how my brain works. And this is how I, do like communicate with God and listen to God in what he wants me to do for the year. Or what's some ways that you guys do? And then also to address some concerns because as being single, I have a lot of time to do the things that I'm doing. But obviously when I get married and have kids, that's been something on my mind of, are you going to be able to spend all this time with God to strategically fight in warfare and what things need to change? And so getting your guys' opinions on like maybe some moms or dads out there who strategically spend time with God, but do it in a way that they can also do that while still having time for their kids and having time to rest. So, so let's go ahead and dive in. So, I know people like to make New Year's resolutions and make new goals in the beginning of the year. And I think that's great. But do we do that with God? And I didn't used to do that, but like the last few years, I started to do that, and it's just been kind of growing more and more and more. And so I was going to kind of share some ways that God has strategically put some things in my life to hear Him and to kind of make some goals that are godly goals for the year, so that I can fight strategically. I do feel like we are in war. We're in spiritual warfare. And I personally like to fight with prayer, strategic prayer. And that's kind of one of the ways that I fight. I believe that one of my giftings is that God can use my words to heal, and they're powerful. And I believe that about everybody. But also, when my words are not good, then I can actually speak death and destruction. And so I have to be very careful. So some of the things that I do is really to kind of help with my words and the things that I speak. So one of the things that I do is I created this several years ago, but it's my spiritual battle binder. And I basically ask God questions. There's strategic prayers in here. There's battle plans on how to fight, like biblically. There's the 10 Commandments. Which I look like I see as my wedding vows, so that I would say that to God, like, hey, I want to follow these 10 Commandments because that's my commitment to you, God. And, but then what I do every year is I have a page called God's Voice and Vision for 2025. Let me see if I can flip this. So it kind of looks like this. There's strategic things that, we have. So the first thing is, I can't really see because of the light, sorry. It says, God, who do you want to be for me? So for this year, then I'll have a scripture promise for the year, and I'll like actually say what that means. Then I pray on that scripture, and then I ask God, how do you want me to respond? And really it's if there's a situation that I'm really struggling with, and what do I need to think about this, and what do you want me to say? And then I have an identity statement. So every year that changes. And so every year I go, God, who do you want to be for me? Like what character do you want to reveal to me this year about yourself? And I look for that for the rest of the year because he's saying, this is who I want to reveal to you. And this year he kind of was talking to me about wanting to be a father of joy and celebration and to really bring that in, like really show his identity in that. And that's been really helpful for me in the year because I already know that's what he's saying. And then, my identity statement, right? Like I'm not going to lie to you guys. This has been a hard month for me because the word that God gave me for this year was to propel. He wants me to propel forward in my ministries and in some areas that I'm stuck. But to do that means that I've gone through some stuff where I've had to change. And knowing my identity statement when my whole world was crashing around me, my emotions were high and things like that, I could come right to this battle binder and read these things and remind myself who God says that he is. And another thing that I do every year is I have a page that says God's promises for me. And I actually have the promises and the things that he is telling me for this year. And when I was really struggling in a really tough spot earlier this week, I had to come there and I'd say, these are the God's promises that he's made for me. And I'm going to look for those things. I'm going to believe in those things. And because of that, I feel like I can prepare my heart for those things. So to me, this has been a huge tool in keeping myself really focused on God's plan for me. And even when life is just hitting hard, there's strategic prayers in there, literally to fight, so that I don't have to do that in my emotions. Another big thing that I use, obviously you guys know that I'm really into decrees and declares. So I have this like cool little binder that has all these decrees and declares throughout the years that I've created on my note cards. And like I said, like one of my biggest gifting is I can speak life and I can speak it abundantly and it's beautiful. And one of my biggest downfalls is when I don't speak life and I speak death. And so those are there already strategically planned. And so that I already have that. Another tool that I use is this is my crafted binder prayer. And so I've been doing this for a few years as well, where I just find God's names and I find scriptures in the Bible and I pray over specific areas of my life so that I'm praying his words back to him. And that has been really powerful for me because it's like, we want to expect good things from God. And we want to have high expectations on God because God is a good father. He's a good bridegroom. He's a good friend. But a lot of times we put our own expectations. And so I actually have in my kitchen a blackboard that has a scripture that I pray over for a month, but also has prayers. And one of the prayers for this year is, I don't want to break my own heart with my own expectations, but I want to align my expectations with God. And I really feel like that prayer binder helps with that. And so I've enjoyed that. Another thing is I like to talk to God every morning. And so this year, my notebook and my journaling every morning is I talk about God's promises that he has for me. And every morning, God reminds me of promises that he has for me so I can focus on that, even though I'm tired and I'm exhausted. And I'm telling you guys, this January has been rough on me. I am exhausted. I wanted to do some things today. I burnt my finger. I feel like I got some things going on medically, so please pray for me. I just got some blood work done, so we're going to see what's going on. But I just have not felt like 100%. But having these tools and listening to God's promises for me every day, like writing those down, has been very important to me. And I really have enjoyed it. So that's another tool that I use. I do journal a lot because I feel like I go back and read my journals and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that God did so much work here, but because I've journaled it, I can see what he's done. And that is huge too. And I love journaling and I think it's, for me, it's important. Another thing I do, this is someone local. And this is the Anytime Pages. And she is somebody, I think she's the pastor of, Caitlin's her name. I think she's the pastor wife, of the worship center, but I think they changed her name to Life. So this is how I go through the Bible strategically. There's prayers in there and scriptures, and I'm actually strategically like breaking down the Bible at each verse that I'm reading so that I can actually absorb it. And having like God's sword and that word has been so powerful in my life. So that's another tool that I use. I also use this Jesus-centered planner, which I break down weekly, that has weekly prayers, weekly goals, like all just centered towards God. And I do that every Sunday, where I have scriptures and then it has prayers and it has like goals that I set for me and God for the month and things like that. So it just keeps me strategically focused on God, his purpose, his plan, recognizing there's a war, staying in his spiritual fight. And I've been doing that for years and I've seen such growth. I've seen such, victory. And then the other thing is I've had a prayer wall. If you guys have seen War Room, I've had a prayer wall on my wall for the last 7 years that I've been praying over. And I have seen God do miraculous, like big, those are like my big miracle wall. And I've seen God do that. And I've seen him do it. And I'm not going to tell you guys there's been times that I'm tired, right? Of praying the same prayer over 7 years, but I've seen victory in it. So I think that like one of my giftings, one of the ways that I really relate to God is that I am very strategic in my prayer. And that's awesome and it's amazing. But I can be very overwhelming. You guys just saw that's not even all the books. Like I have a Spiritual Growth Academy book that I also do, which I'm actually in academy where I'm doing like, it's almost like school for spiritual stuff. It can be very overwhelming. And so I'd like to know what you guys do, because I know that this is a season of singleness, and I know this is a season where I just have time that I can spend with God. And I know that I can do that when I'm married as well, but it may look different. So I'd love to get your guys' feedback on like what you guys do as mamas and dads and people with kids and married and things like that. Another thing that I do like to do, I've just started doing, because everything is so, for me, in the mind, right? And like obedience and strategic. But I started to actually have tea with God or dance with God so that it could be more relationship wise. And it's been super beautiful to do that, because I can start seeing the relationship in that. Like it's relationship. It's a personhood. It's not just paper and pen, but there's a real God who wants a real relationship with me. So those are kind of the things that I do to stay in relationship with God, to stay strategic in our relationship, to have warfare that is going to be strategic against the enemy. So there's victory and things like that. But again, I don't think my way is the only way or even the best way. This is just a way that I want to open up conversation and say, what do you guys do? I know I've started to try to paint as well. I know lots of people paint and God speaks to them through painting. I've done a little bit of discerning of dreams and writing down dreams and things like that, and God speaks in dreams. So I feel like there's such a wide variety of ways that God speaks. And sometimes God's speaking to us and we don't even know it, or we don't realize that this is a common way that God speaks to us, and we don't tell people about it. And then he's been speaking to us and like opening up this discussion, being like, hey, God speaks to me that way too. This is a normal thing, and it's God speaking to you, and it's beautiful. Like I feel like opening up a platform of discussion for that. So please write down in the comments, how are you, like, what is something that you do strategically with God, or what you guys do in the beginning of the year, or, you know, like I obviously write poems. If you've read my book, there's poems to God. So singing to God, right? Like all these different things. So just curious on how people are connecting with God. And if you haven't done that yet and you're like, dude, this is all so overwhelming. The journaling, all this stuff, Rachel, is so overwhelming. I encourage you guys to start off with 3 questions. Just ask God 3 questions and write it down and work on it this year. And the first question that's the most important is, God, who do you see me as? Like, how do you see me through your eyes? Like your identity statement. Like, what does God say about you? Because when the enemy comes to fight you, you can say, wait a minute, my Father, my bridegroom, my God says this about me. And you can just repeat it back. I really feel like it's so powerful if you just know how God thinks about you and what he says about you. And even if it's not true today, it's who you are in him. Your identity is important. The second question I do really feel is important is, what's your favorite characteristic about God? So for me, like even when I'm struggling and I'm hurting and everything seems so crazy, I know that my favorite characteristic about God is that he's a God that always shows up. And I can stand on that. I can stand on that. So when life is just turbulence and circumstances are crazy and I got nothing left, I can say, but I know you're a God that shows up. So I'm going to ask you to show up in this situation. And the last one that I think is super important is I also think saying to God, what characteristic of yourself do you want to reveal to me in this situation? Who do you want to be to me in this season? What are you trying to show me? I think we get stuck in the question of asking why, when God is like, it's not my job to defend myself to you guys. It's my job to define my character to you guys. So changing our questions is say, can you define who you are? Can you define what you're doing in the season? Those 3 questions have really been the jumping off, the propelling. I mean, in any bad situation I've been in, if I could ask those 3 questions, I know that God always answers, and that I always get freedom, and I always get, I just always hear him in those 3 things. So thank you for joining me. I hope you guys found this helpful. Please don't feel like it's overwhelming. We all have different personalities. This is just some of the ways that I can connect. If you want to know about any of these things that I'm utilizing, please let me know in the chat, and I can give you the information, or I can even connect you to Amazon so you can purchase them and things like that if that's something you're interested in. Obviously, I'm not going to make any money from that. It has nothing to do with me. It's not part of my ministry. It's just things that I utilize and use that I think are powerful tools. And And please respond to, like, hey, especially you mama and daddies out there. Like, when I get married, I want to know that there is a way still to connect with God without having to spend hours upon hours upon hours upon hours, which is something I do now, of doing these things, and like still have that connection with him. And I'd love to hear your guys' feedback for that. I just love to hear your feedback in general. So I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you for watching. And I will see you guys tomorrow with a new decree and declare. Also, I have not picked what scripture we're going to do decrees and declares for the month of February. So if you guys have one, let me know. But I may go with 1 Corinthians 13 just because, it's love. So anyway, let me know, guys. I obviously want to interact, and I obviously want to go through those things with you guys and bring those things through. So let's have some fun with it. Have a good night.